was sold out to a big company, Greatermans. And after university, I joined Greatermans, and I was working for 2 or 3 years in different jobs. Like King, I was a training manager for about 3 years. Then I got a little store, and then they called me in and said they want to open up a supermarket called Checkers. I don't like talking about Checkers, but they called me across, and I was the first person in Checkers. They brought a man from overseas to be the leader, and I was the young training manager to open the very first Checkers store in 1966. Now, I can't tell you how difficult it was, because we were working with a board of directors, and you heard from George just now. They were very much on top. They didn't mix with us at all. And whatever we wanted to do to build this new company, they said no. We know how to do it. We're old people with grey hair and experience. We know best. And the two of us tried to build the Checkers Group. Everything we tried to do, they said no. And the 3 stores that we opened failed. They failed. And I was a trainee there. We were taking little stores from the Greatermans Group and making them into a supermarket. We looked at the American magazines, and we studied the American magazines. Is this interesting for you?
Yes.
So I want to just show you how sometimes in life it's the reverses that the CEO mentioned, and the problems, there's only problems in this company. Everything we wanted to do to start a supermarket company, they said no. And eventually I said, please, I'm a young guy, can my wife and I go to America? Because that's where the supermarket started. No, you're too young, you're too impressionable, we know best. And after a huge fight, we managed to get a trip to America for 6 months, working in supermarkets. My wife was in the cheese counter, I was in the deli counter, in the meat counter, she was in the fruit counter, and we worked and worked and worked in supermarkets. And we wrote letters back telling them how much we'd learned, and we can really build Checkers into a big company. And I thought they were listening. They weren't listening. They tore my letters up, and they actually tore them up and threw them away, saying these are the ravings of a young madman. He's just young, he's emotional, he's been carried away. And it taught me a wonderful lesson, George. Listen to young people. They often know a damn sight more than you do. They're thinking, they're caring, they understand the people. But they weren't listening to us. And when I got back, I thought I was going to really build Checkers into a great group. And they moved me out to sell shirts and ties at their department store. And they moved somebody else in to run Checkers, and he failed. And I appealed to them, let me come back, I know what to do. No, Raymond, you're too young, you're too inexperienced. And I had all the passion, and I think the leadership, that I didn't know the word leadership, but I knew it was right. And they weren't listening. I eventually got back and built Checkers into 89 stores from the age of 28 till 35. My wife was having our 4th child, and they called me in and they said, on a Monday morning, I'll never forget it, I was 35 years old, and they said, you're fired. I built this company for them. You're fired, you're too difficult, you're always trying to do new things, which surely people would appreciate it. I love people doing new things in my company. And I was fired with 3 children and our 4th child on the way. And let me tell you, Lucia, that was a real problem. What did I do? I had no capital at all, but just my salary. And I had the 4th child. And I thought when I came home to tell her, that my wife would say, well, what have you done? And what are we going to do? She wasn't well. She was having trouble having our 4th child. She jumped out of bed and said, this is the best day of your life. You've always been frustrated with these guys. You've worked too long in a company. They've always frustrated you. Now you should be an entrepreneur and open your own business. But I said, that sounds fine, but I've got no capital. And she reminded me, we went to America, as I explained earlier on. And there was a wonderful American man there who taught us a lot, and I'll tell you about him too. But he always said to us, you need 90% guts and 10% capital. There's always someone, if your idea is right, who will back you, whether it's a family friend, whether it's friends, whether it's businesses today who lend money. There's always somebody who will get the money if your idea is right, if you're passionate about it and excited about it, and you feel it's the right thing. So why I'm telling you that story is it's amazing, having heard Lasigo, King, and George speaking. It's amazing what you can pick up that may stay with you all your life, just one idea. When I was 5, and Wendy reminded me of 90% guts, 10% capital, it stopped me going to look for another job. I wanted to go and look for another job. 4 kids, I had to look after them. And every time I went down the alternatives was, do I get another job? Do I go back to university? I couldn't do that because I had 4 children. Do I open my own business? Every time I wrote it down, it was 10 out of 10. Even although I had no capital. Because I remembered what this guy said. And then what happened was that after I lost my job, I made a lot of offers because I built Checkers to 89 stores. Lots of people offered jobs despite me being 5. That didn't help, by the way, being 5, but that's another matter. And then I decided to open my own business. I knew I was passionate about supermarketing. I want to get it onto that just now. I was passionate about supermarketing. I knew that that Checkers board of directors were too old and old-fashioned, and they were always saying no to every new idea. So I knew there was an opportunity for it. But I had to raise the money. And I went to an accountant who was a friend of mine. And he said, Raymond, although you've been 5, I'll help you raise the money. We'll get 20 people in Johannesburg and 20 people in Cape Town to put money into a new supermarket group. And there were 3 little stores in Cape Town that wanted to sell their business. 3 little grocery shops. We bought them with this money from the shareholders, and I kept 50%. I didn't have to put much money in because I was doing all the work. I had no money to put in. So the shareholders said, we will put the money in, you do the work. You know the supermarket. And that's how we started. We bought 3 little shops. And in those days it was a huge, there was a huge Woolworths, huge Spar. Checkers ShopRite had just started, or Checkers was big, 120 or 89 stores growing to 120. And we were just nothing. They laughed, they thought we'll go broke within a year. They never thought that we could build a business. And let me show you very briefly how we built the business. It was by listening to people. An American said to both of us, if you can keep your ear close to the ground, that the grasshoppers jump in, then you're okay, you're listening, you're not getting full of yourself, you're not getting big-headed. Listening, picking up ideas like I'm sure you're picking up ideas today. It's amazing by just following that, we built a business. But there were 2 mentors. I think we all need someone that we respect. It's amazing how if you listen to people that you respect, that can stay with you, as I said, all your life. We had 2 people. One was my professor at Cape Town University when I was all of 18, 19 years old. On the very first day I went to university to do a commerce course, he asked all of us, there were 40 of us in the room, why have you come to do a commerce course? Why are you doing a course like today? And he said, I know that you'll all put up your hand if I say you're coming here to make money quickly. Put your hands up. Everyone put their hand up. He said, you know, I'm going to fail all of you in 3 years' time. You're talking absolute nonsense. You don't go into business to make money quickly. You go into business to serve the consumer. You become a doctor to serve the patient. You become a lawyer to serve the client. You still send your accounts, and you will make money by being a good doctor. People will come to you if you go out on the weekends and help their children. But you won't make a good doctor if you want to make money quickly. But you will make money quickly if you care for the patient or if you care for the consumer. If you put the consumer first, whatever you do in the business world, you will be successful. And he spent 3 years hammering into us the importance of caring for the consumer. Worrying about poverty, worrying about unemployment, worried about getting prices down, making the suppliers more efficient. And he said, I remember him saying to us, you've got to fight anybody, whether it's government or manufacturers or people, anyone who stands in the way of the consumer getting a good deal, if you want to be successful, and you will be successful, if that's your mission. If your mission remains to make money quickly, you will fail. Now, when I went back to my late father and said, this was the most fantastic day, he wanted to take me out of university. He said, this old professor with his long hair is talking absolute nonsense. Business is tough, and it is tough. Business is rough, and it is rough. And you've got to try and make money as quickly as you can. That was my father. He was a great man. But he was wrong. He was wrong. Because both Mr. Hutt and the American guy that we met, which I'll tell you about, both said that the key thing is the more you care for your customer or your patient, the more money you'll make. Profits are crucial. What you said, George, is important. You've got to get results. But it's how you get those results. If your results are by caring more for your patient or more for your customer, you will then get good results and the profits will flow. And then we met this American man. Wonderful, wonderful man. Except he was very keen on my wife, but that's another matter. I don't think she was keen on him, but she liked him, as I did. Honestly say to you that with Professor Hutt's philosophy and this simple diagram, we built Pick-n-Pay. With all the big brains that the other companies had, they had much more money, they had huge businesses, they had huge top-class executives. We were just young people with nothing except a philosophy, and the philosophy was the consumer is the queen. Consumer sovereignty. The consumer is the queen, what I've explained. The patient is the queen, the consumer is the queen. And this guy in America said, you will build a business no matter what the business is, if you keep a balance of 4 legs at the table. It is so simple, and I can honestly tell you, every day of my life, now and then, I concentrate on the 4 legs at the table. Now the person sitting on top of the table is the consumer. She or he is the reason to be. That's what we're in business for. The more we serve the consumer and fight issues for the consumer. Here we were, a small baby company. There were all the big companies around, and we stood up and fought manufacturers to take fixed prices. Because with fixed prices, the consumer isn't getting a good deal. The government fixed the price of bread. They wouldn't allow us to cut the price of bread. And we fought the government. Got into lots of big trouble. We cut the price of bread. And they said, you're not allowed to do this. And they tried to fine us. It was 150,000 rand for cutting the price of bread. And I refused to pay because we had no money. Eventually the minister was fired and the government changed and allowed us to cut the price of bread. And we built our name by fighting consumer issues. What was right for the consumer was right for us. And we really built Pick-n-Pay from nothing because we had the passion that Lucia showed us now. The passion and the clarity of having the right mission. The mission was the consumer, It wasn't making money quickly. But both Professor Hutt and this wonderful guy in America said, you've got to have 4 legs at a table. Very simply, the first leg is admin. I've seen so many young businesses fail because they don't concentrate on admin, which is like the foundation of a business. And it's the profits as well, the admin and the profits. So you need profits to pay for your salaries, to pay for your growth. It's not just worrying about the consumer, because the more you worry about her, the more profits will flow in the first leg of the table. That's admin. Watching your costs, watching your salaries, watching your wages, doing the things the right way, watching your taxes, and doing things the right way, and having the right admin. Too many young entrepreneurs fail because they have a wonderful idea, but they don't balance it with 4 legs at a table. So the first leg is admin, once you've got your mission right. The second leg is the merchandise that you're going to sell or make. It's your reason to be in business. So what does the consumer want? It's the merchandise there at the right price. And that's why we fight with our suppliers all day long. When we started Pick and Pay, I used to come home sometimes at 11 o'clock at night because I was sitting opposite the chicken supplier and trying to get a lower price of 1 cent. And he said, no, Raymond, I'm not budging. I said, well, I'll sit here till 11 o'clock. And eventually he wanted to go home. And I got an extra cent. So fighting for the best price, because that's what the consumer wants. And the manufacturers often, they're coming with high prices. They give the big companies better prices than I could get. And I said, how can you give the better prices to the big companies? We're small. We're fighting for the consumer. Help me as a young guy. And the more we sat up till 11 at night, the more they helped us. It was tough. But we managed to get the right prices, even though we were a baby company, by being passionate and fighting like hell for the consumer. Is this interesting for you?
Yes.
Is this what you want me to talk about?
Yes.
Is this what you want me to talk about?
Yes.
And then I'm talking too long. Just being polite. There you are. You have the right admin, the right merchandise for the customer all the time. And this leg here is the marketing leg. Advertising. And the best way to advertise is by being courteous and caring. It's amazing how people come back if they feel you're a caring couple. And also, not just advertising, anyone can advertise, but spending money on social responsibility. We had no money, I'll explain that to you. From day one, we helped nearly every small charity. We couldn't give out millions, we didn't have anything. But my wife and I would go out on Sundays at certain fairs and shows and give out little Pick and Pay pads. We helped small charities, church bazaars and schools. Whatever small organization, we always helped. Although we had no money, we put a budget in to help the community. And I got that from this wonderful man in America. He said, doing good is good business. It's not just something that you do just to help maybe a blind lady or a blind man. It's part of your whole package. Your admin is there, your merchandise is there, and this is the giving leg. Being part of your community, understanding what your community needs, and spending time with your community, helping them. And we really have built Pick and Pay with all the faults and mistakes we've made. We've helped so many charities and so many schools and so many universities and so many students. My wife's whole life from day one has been the education side. And she's poured time and effort and money into helping education. And that's really one of the reasons we're here with you today. Because we believe in that leg. It's not there just to be nice to one little charity. But it's part of running a successful business. You hear that today. People are saying, oh, you need social responsibility. responsibility. You read a lot in the newspapers. When we started Pick and Pay, no one talked about social responsibility. A lot of people talk about it today and they don't do enough. We spend an enormous amount of time here advertising social responsibility. And that leg is as important as the merchandise you sell and as the admin. And that's why the 4 legs are so important. It's not just a little thing that you do. It should be part and parcel of what you do, even when you run a small, new business. The 3rd leg is the giving leg. You don't want to take all the time, it's the giving leg. And the 4th leg is people. People. You heard a lot about leadership from George. Letting people have pride in what you're doing, taking them with you, not leading from the top, but taking people with you. People want to believe in what you're doing. And paying people above the average, not trying to pay people below the average. We gave shares as a baby company to everybody in the business. After 5 years, they got shares, and after 10 years, they got more shares. Every person in Pick and Pay, from day one, we gave shares to. Now, that's hard when you run a private company. We became a public company after a year, and we gave shares out to every single person, and they're all shareholders of Pick and Pay. But we started doing it as a private company. We said, let's look after our top 10 people, so they can share the vision of what we're doing. And we worked with our accountants, and we gave out shares in the private company. It didn't work too well, because a lot of those people, they got the shares, and they made a lot of money, and they pushed off. But some of them stayed. And when you can share sensibly with people who are helping you, it's amazing what it does. Get your people behind you, that they don't just earn a salary, that they feel part of your company. It's hard as you get bigger and bigger, because we've got 800 stores today, and it's very hard to keep that feeling all over the country, but we try desperately hard. So, I just want to share with you that what I've just told you in half an hour is how we built this company. We were the babies. We weren't the big companies. We were small. We had nothing. But we had an idea and a passion and a caring of the consumer first and the profits second, not the other way around. The profits flowed from the caring. So I just want to end by saying I'm really delighted, Eugenia, to be involved with your school here. And I hope the alumni here, that many of you have worked in companies and done well. Some of you may work and then leave like King, and I hope you do extremely well, King. King, where's King? Who is the most important person in Pick and Pay?
The customer.
Absolutely right. Not me, not my stupid, not me. The customer, the customer, the customer. And that you'll take right through when you open your business. Huh?
Yes, sir.
And will you open it with 4 legs?
Yes.
And who will be on the top of your table?
The customer.
The customer. The customer. Right.